You're listening to the Level Flight Podcast.
Welcome to the Level Flight Podcast, consisting of myself, Connor Hrabchak, Brian Finlayson, and Elliot Rusenholt. This is the inaugural episode, very first episode. Glad to be doing this.
It's exciting.
Very
Lots
exciting.
of fun.
We're just gonna do some logistical stuff to start out. Introduce ourselves to our audience. I'll go first. I became a Jets fan kind of when they moved back to Winnipeg in 2011. My dad's been a season ticket holder the whole time. Now that has evolved into me writing about the team. I write for the Hockey Writers about the Jets and the Moose. Yeah, so I'm very connected to the team now, probably more than I ever was, and it's a great time to be starting a podcast. Brian.
Yeah, as Connor said earlier, I'm Brian. I grew up an Ottawa Senators fan because I was born in 97, so a year after the Jets left, didn't have anything. Everyone, had to sort of fend for themselves there, and after the the Jets had left and I found the Sens. I was a season ticket holder with the Moose, the original rendition up until 2011. Then a season ticket holder with the Jets until 2019 and COVID years and everything. But I write about the team as well for Fansided, there's a lot to talk about this year. There's a lot of different moving parts, and it's exciting to have another avenue to expand on that.
Yeah, as Connor mentioned, my name's Elliot. Played hockey when I was younger, of course. Jets weren't around when I was born, but, I was watching it was a Leafs-Canadiens game on TV. Immediately fell in love with hockey and Matt Sundin, so I immediately became a Leafs fan. But as soon as the team came back, I decided I've always been a homer. Whatever your city you live in, that's the team you cheer for. So 2011, Jets came back. That became my team. And I'm going to give probably a little bit of a different perspective than the other two. They both are writing for the team in some capacity. I'm just a fan. I've always been a fan, love hockey, and they'll maybe be a little bit more conservative with their takes and things that they're going to say. You may get a little bit off the rails from me. You may get something a little outlandish, but it's going to come from a good place. It's just because I care about the team, and I've watched them for a really long time. I probably watch almost every single game. I was a season ticket holder, same as Brian with the Moose, up until probably about 2010. And then I go to a Jets game whenever I can. Never been the most fortunate, so haven't always been able to go. But whenever it's on TV, I'm always catching, always keeping up, and I keep up with the news. So,
And we are the Level Flight Podcast. That is the three of us.
Yeah.
Just like that.
And Elliot, I got to be honest, I'm kind of offended that you think I've got level takes. I'm either all in or not at all.
Well, I think we're probably each one of us, at least every episode, will have at least one take where we'll all go, "Whoa!"
Someone's walking out.
Yeah, so someone will say something.
You're gonna hear a door,
and it'll be quite funny at the same time, but it'll probably be not the most outlandish of takes, but it'll probably at least be a hot take that will make some sort of sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we are the Level Flight Podcast. We're going to be aiming to be posting weekly, covering all things Jets, Moose, across the NHL, prospects, stuff like that. We'd love to hear feedback, reviews, stuff like that. We're open to really changing any topic, but Jets is our main thing.
If you guys have suggestions for sort of topics or things you want us to discuss, like if there's a specific person, like, we may post on Twitter or on our social media and just say, hey, this person's been playing well. Do you guys want to hear about it? Or, hey, we haven't done this in a while. Do you guys want to hear us talk about this? And we'll run with it if you guys want to hear about it.
At Level Flight WPG on all socials.
Yeah,
got to plug that.
We're totally on board now. So, definitely seek us out and connect with us. And we'll even look at doing things like specialty episodes. If you guys want to see stuff to do with free agency or the trade deadline, we could get in here for a second time in a week and just try and get something out for you guys, because there's a lot going on around then, so it's nice to cover everything when we can. So even mailbags, we want to connect with you guys. So
Perfect. Yeah. All right. Let's get into it. The 3-game road trip. Started out with a 6-4 win against the Kings, 3-2 overtime win against the Coyotes, and then a 2-1 overtime loss against the Golden Knights, or better known as the Connor Hellebuck game. What stood out to you guys? Who stood out to you? And what were your overall thoughts? Brian, let's start with you.
My takeaway was they managed to escape that trip after being pummeled for a lot of, especially the Vegas game, they were outshot, and it was Hellebuck who got us that point. But in LA, the first period, we were outshot 16-5 or something.
That was egregious.
Getting out of that road trip with 5 of 6 points is unreal. But it's also, it should be an eye-opener, considering that was just, there was a lot of terrible things that we saw on that trip. There was, there's issues with, getting out of the zone. There's issues with moving the puck, keeping it away from the front of the net, which is largely as to why I looked up some stuff before just to look at how stupid it was in that Vegas game. Hellebuck faced 6.536 expected goals against in a single game.
Egregious.
Yeah. And so that's not a recipe for winning, especially when the game that we saw from David Riddick in Arizona, I'm not confident that Hellebuck can, perform at, Dom Hasek levels of, performance for the entire season when we don't have a backup that I trust. He's called Big Save Dave, but the saves are small and not notable.
Elliot, what about you?
I'll touch back on what Brian said. It blows my mind, especially when I played hockey. I was a defenseman, so I'm normally you'll probably hear a lot from me talking about defensemen, and just, oh my word, sometimes I'm screaming at the TV, just going, "Can we clear the puck out, please?" Just, it's bad at points where breakouts are just not there. It just doesn't look like. I know they're still trying to understand the Rick Bowness system, and we're early in the year, but I really don't want to be yelling at the TV. Can we please figure out how to break out the puck in game 35-40, right? That's not a recipe. That's levels of, okay, I'm expected to be in the lottery this season, not, hey, let's try to be a fringe playoff team. Just slow starts. We were on the back foot to start every single game. That's not, what Brian said, it's not a way to win games. Is it great to see that we can win from coming from behind and being on the back foot and scoring against the run of play? Sure, because that's going to happen sometimes. But, I look back at the Blues game and just go, okay, where did that team go that just took it to the opponent, were aggressive early and put pucks on net and actually looked clean? I just hope that we can see that. Again, Connor Hellebuck. Period, point, and
that's it.
That's the end. That's the end of the sentence.
Well, I put a tweet out at the end of that game. I think summing up a lot of how that game went, where it was Hellebuck deserved the win. The rest of the team didn't.
Right. And you guys both brought up zone exits, and it's hard to talk about that without mentioning Ville Heinola. Samberg and Stanley have both really struggled with zone exits. I'm not saying the sixth defenseman is really going to make a huge difference, but when it's that egregious in 3 straight games, like you said, that's what he's good at. That's what he's good at. And you fix a clear need, and it's year 4, year 3 of going on this, where they've struggled to break the puck out, and Heinola is just sitting there in the AHL. I don't know. It reached a new low when they started running Dillon and Schmidt on the second power play unit.
Yeah.
It's just,
and that's clearly where a defensive defenseman does not need to be
right
on the puck. I don't I know Dillon and Schmidt is not great, but having Schmidt out there is fine. He's okay, but I associate Brendan Dillon with a penalty killer and a defensive defenseman that's going to keep defenders in front of him, offensive players coming at him in front of him and stopping offensive chances. Not, hey, I really like how Brendan Dillon runs a power play. He really cycles. No, I don't see that ever. And I don't say it.
You would hope for more out of Pionk as well. On the zone exit side of things.
He's struggling.
Yeah, that top pairing of Morrissey and Pionk is really up and down. Like, they'll have games where their offense just takes over. They generate so much to the point where it doesn't matter how much they give up. But there's also points where, like the Golden Knights game, there's those hockey stat graphs on Twitter, and they just got shelled. They got absolutely shelled in that game. They're really up and down. They'll generate so much offense one game and give up so much the next, to the point where it's really inconsistent for a top pairing. You'd like to see DeMello up there. Maybe he's found his game again. But, yeah, I don't know. But on the topic of defensemen, let's go to Sandberg v. Stanley. Sandberg has played 4 games so far. Stanley's played 5. What are your guys' initial thoughts on who should be the 6th defenseman?
Well, firstly, if we're talking winners of those two, the winner's Dylan DeMello because he looks like himself again. But no, like he is the stabilizing force on that pairing. And personally, I've been very critical of Logan Stanley. I don't like a lot about his game. But if we're talking about the small sample size to start the season, he has outplayed Dylan Sandberg.
He's been good.
He hasn't been bad.
Yeah.
But he's getting sheltered. He's playing with a really good defenseman in DeMello. I don't think it's great that DeMello's being, put aside onto a third pairing with, developing young players, because he should be a guy playing big minutes because him and Morrissey are really good together. But I mean, if you're looking at, just the eye test and the giveaways and the underlying numbers, though, they've shown that Stanley's been better to start the year. And I wouldn't have thought that, but to be honest with you, Sandberg has just really struggled. And frankly, I don't know if he's the one who should be, the alternate in there.
For me, it's tough. Same with Brian, and these guys they'll keep saying it. You'll hear it from me. I will always never give Stanley a good rap. I went to a bunch of Moose games, especially when he was a prospect. I watched him. I thought he was intriguing, but the same issues that he's had are still the same issues that he has now. Sure, has he developed some things? Yes. But the thing that I always looked for him to improve and was hoping to improve, because it was like the only thing that I was like, okay, this isn't even at like an AHL level, is his foot speed. He's still, I get he's 6'7", but he's still too slow for my liking.
He's so slow. He's like if you strapped skates to a tree and pushed it down a hill.
Yeah. It's just, I will, honestly, I will say that Stanley's been better, but I can't say Sandberg's been good either, right? Like, Stanley's been stable enough, but at 24, he's not going to really develop much anymore. Sure, he may develop at least another year, but like he's going to be in his prime in a season or two. So for me, it's like, is he really your 6th defenseman, and is he a long-term option? Stanley's a bottom pairing guy or a middle pairing guy on a bad team. This Jets team, and I will say it now before we talk about it probably later, I don't think they're a bad team. I think they're on the fringe. I think they're okay. But Stanley is a bottom or middle pairing defenseman on a bad team. So I either think that we need to make a move, or again, we'll harp on it more. It'll be a common theme until it happens. Villy at least needs to have the same sample size as Sandberg and Stanley to at least be given a shot.
Yeah, I promise not to bring up Ville Heinola for every single point, but this is another one where the winner of Sandberg and Stanley is Heinola, or Declan Chisholm for that matter. He's been really good so far for the Moose. Both lefty have. Out of those two, though, the last 2 games that Stanley played were really promising against Toronto and St. Louis before the road trip, and then he was hurt on the road trip, which brought Sandberg back into the lineup. But those were really promising. Those are 2 of the best games I've ever seen him play. If he can keep that up, then I'd give the winner to him. But Sandberg also improved game by game. The Vegas game is just a wash. No one looked good except for 37. But I think Sandberg is slowly getting better. But for right now, I'd give it to Stanley. We're going to move on now to Kyle Connor. 1 goal so far this year, and it came on an empty net in the home opener. Nothing or something, Brian?
It's nothing. I mean, he's Kyle Connor. He's since he's come into the league, he has consistently put up 30 or more. Last year he 47? I mean,
Yeah.
obviously it's a little concerning when your supposed top goal scorer is, starting the season on such a drought. But I mean, it's not going to be something that persists. Like, you've seen what he can do. He shot a reasonable, percentage in the last few years, where you're not looking at it and going, oh, this guy's shooting above his weight class here. But with him, once he gets going, I have a feeling it'll be fine. But he's just gonna have to eventually put the puck in the net. That's just how it works.
It's what he's supposed to do, right? He's a goal scorer. You need him to score. But, I mean, I don't think it's... As much as I'm slightly concerned, as we're, like, getting closer to 10 games in and 50, right? Like, it's getting to the point where it's like, okay, like, at least one's got to go in. It's like a shooter in basketball. Guy might not be shooting well, but once you see one goes in, then... Like a Steph Curry, he may go he may be 2 for 11 in the fourth quarter, but then you look at the stats and go, okay, how is he 6 for 17 by the end of the game? Because one dropped that probably shouldn't have, and then it gets you going. So I'm waiting for him to just have a weird pucks bouncing in front of the net, just kind of whacks at it and it goes in, and that kind of gets him going. I still think he gets to 30 this year, but yeah, he's not on pace for a 40 or anything crazy. There is somebody else on the team that I think might go for 40, but it's not Kyle Connor this year.
Yeah. I'd like to say that it's nothing, but like you look at the goals, like expected goals and all that stuff. He's like bottom of the league in goals above expected with like he's supposed to have like 5 by now with the chances he's generating, right? So I'd like to say that it's nothing, but at the same time it's like at what point is he going to beat a goaltender? Like this one goal came on an empty net. So he has 0 goals when a goalie's actually in the net so far. I don't know. He's generating the chances, and it's going to turn around because he's one of the best finishers in the league. But when? Like,
when is that going to happen?
Especially with Ehlers out, it's even more like important
even more
right
apparent.
now because you're losing all that scoring. And if Kyle Connor's not scoring either, like those are your top 2 wingers that just aren't scoring goals.
If Connor's not scoring at an elite level, the Jets don't even sniff a playoff berth.
Another thing is last year, I remember reading a stat where he scored 47 goals, but like 35 of them came in a different game. So it was like he was scoring 1 a game, like for half the season, and then he would score 2 here and there. If that keeps, like, say he reverts to normal Kyle Connor starting Thursday against Montreal, and like he's only scoring then 1 goal. Like the goals don't really come in bunches. He'll score like 1 a game. He won't really score like a hat trick or like Laine when he scored like 18 goals in that 1 month in November. Like Kyle Connor just doesn't do that. He scores like 7 every month. He's like a consistent scorer, not a bunches scorer, which is why it's concerning because he's not hitting 47 because he can't score in bunches like that. But I don't think 40 is out of the question. I don't know. Like, he's got to start producing at some point.
I think 32 is probably where we're at this point.
I'd say that's a little low. Even though he only like.
But like you said, he's consistent, and that's why he's so important to this team.
Yeah.
He's a consistent.
They put him back
guy.
with Dubois last game. They flipped Scheifele and Dubois. Now it's Connor, Dubois, Wheeler, if I'm not mistaken.
I think they switched
Appleton
it back.
now.
I think they switched it back again.
Oh, they did.
Yeah,
okay.
I saw there was a tweet just before we started here. Line rushes were back to what they were
flipped it
before
back.
they flipped
Okay.
it.
Yeah, Bonus is back on the ice, so I think he actually wants to see it up close.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. He's got to start scoring at some point. I have faith that he will, just not in bunches.
Now, my question now is, as a short little extra point, is this has to do with him not scoring, but is it also having to do with teams scheming around him? And that's why Scheifele's so open and getting scoring chances because they've just decided that, well, if we could keep Kyle Connor off the score sheet, we should win games.
The only thing is, the last year they would have done that too. He had put up over 30 the year before.
Yeah,
that is true. But some teams can't figure out schemes for certain teams until a light bulb goes off, right? And that happens with any sport.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure Kyle Connor's shooting percentage right now is like 3%. So that's gonna go back up. I wrote about that the other day. 3.3%. Like, he's one of the best shooters in the league. That's not gonna stay that low. All right, last topic, since we're kind of on a time constraint here. Buying or selling team starts around the NHL. Let's start with the number 1 team in the league, the Boston Bruins, who just got back Brad Marchand, expected to get McAvoy back in 2 months. What do you think, Elliot, about the Boston Bruins start?
I think they're hot. They're the Bruins that we've known for. It's the same core. It's nothing new. This core has always been good, right? So, yes, is this start a little bit hotter than we probably expected? Yeah, but I mean, if you're a contending team, there's always going to be a selling team to give you something. I think that they probably should be more of a, like, I think they maybe want to, if they want to add an extra depth piece, they could, but they're looking like one of the better teams in the league this year in that Atlantic Division.
I'm going to make this quick because I don't have a lot to say on them because I just think they're a really good team.
We can do these rapid fire. I don't mind that.
Hey, yeah, rapid fire is good because it makes us, think quickly, which more honesty.
So you're buying it.
They're buying, and I'm going to put this out here. Jim Montgomery, Jack Adams.
Wow. Whew. I like it.
Yeah.
If they win the President's Trophy, I don't see why not. I'm going to agree with what you said, especially. Krejci coming back was huge for them. If they add yet another forward top 6 piece, look out because their defense is already one of the best in the league. Golden Knights, first in the Pacific, if I'm not mistaken, 8-2. What do you guys buying or selling?
Well, I'm gonna say buying, but with no money.
Just
and
like Vegas.
Also, it
No
feels like they constantly feel the need to improve, even when they're probably not as good as they're performing. I don't like their goaltending. Like Logan Thompson's been
He's been good.
He's
so
been
far,
good,
though. Yeah.
but I don't trust a trio of Logan Thompson, Aiden Hill, and Laurent Brossoit. Like that's not an NHL trio that has succeeded in the long term.
Brossoit's a backup. That's about it.
I think they're all 3 of them have acted as backups, and it's I don't know. Yeah, I think they're buying, but I don't know if they're going anywhere.
I will say buying, but really, like Brian said, I think they probably. I kind of have here that they probably need to add at least a piece or two. Like unlike the Bruins, where they could probably leave it and be fine and add a depth piece if they want. I think they need to I think the Golden Knights actually need to add somebody significant from one of the bottom feeders.
I personally am selling. I still think they're the 3rd best team in that division. I like Calgary and Edmonton more than them. I think they've had a great start. I don't think they have the depth to keep it up, and the goaltending is also. Logan Thompson's been great, but still concerning. I think I know what our answer is going to be for this next one, but the Toronto Maple Leafs buying or selling their horrid start.
I think they're going to be buying because I think that they are at some point. That's the thing. It's a horrid start, and I'm putting that
For
in,
them, not relatively speaking.
For the listeners, I put that in a hard air quote. But I think they're gonna end up buying because they're 500 right now. They've had a really rough go on the West Coast. I think they're gonna turn it around at some point, but I think there's certain pieces that need to be improved upon. But yeah, they're buying if they can figure it out. If not, that entire team is gonna melt down into oblivion.
Yeah.
Here's how I see it. Dubas is buying. I would say selling.
Fair enough.
Dubas, he's going to buy because he has bought into this core, and so he will make the moves necessary to figure it out. Austin Matthews has not had a great start, which is probably half the reason why they haven't been as good. But for me, I think if they're still struggling like this at the deadline or close to the deadline, I think it's time to just kill the core and just get it over with now.
I agree with you too. I think they'll be buying because Dubas and Keefe's their job's on the line. So they're gonna try and make a move to save it. If they have another bad year, they're done. So they're gonna try their hardest to save it.
Hot take. Well, it may not even be that much of a hot take. Dubas and Keefe both get fired this year if they either don't get far and don't make a playoff run or don't make the playoffs.
Yeah, I think
Eastern Conference Finals has to be the aim for them to not get fired.
Yeah,
I think if they continue stumbling here, I think Keefe is the first casualty, and I think they listen. My thought is they've at least considered calling the man, the myth himself, Barry Trotz.
Oh yeah. That would be something. All right, we've got a few more teams here. We'll just do rapid fire, one sentence. Blue Jackets 3-7, last in the Metro. Buying or selling their slow start?
selling, but I don't know who they're selling. They don't have many good players who are willing to be sold.
Okay.
Selling, but probably they may do a little bit of buying to maybe see if they can get back into the Metro.
Yeah, I don't know. They even with Gaudreau, they're not that good. I'm selling. Devils, they are second in the Metro, 6-3, 12 points.
I don't like a lot about their team, including their goaltending, but I think they're gonna keep it up at least
Do
for a
they
little.
go all in?
I think they buy lightly.
Okay, buy lightly.
I think they're going to sell hard. I think in the next month and a half, we're going to see a hard drop-off.
They tail off and then they sell.
I think that they will not make the playoffs, and they're going to be probably 5th or 6th.
I'm gonna agree with you. I think this is a hot start, but eventually they'll tail off and they'll start selling. The Wild, they've kind of turned it around a little bit, but their goaltending's still kind of a concern. What do you think?
I think they're going to improve. They're going to buy. Fleury will get better.
I'm going to buy. I've always been a fan of the Wild.
Yeah.
I think that their core is good.
The Blues started out 3-0, have lost 5 straight, 3-5, second last in the Central.
I looked at that roster. I think they're too good to keep falling.
Yeah.
Eventually, they're going to figure it out and they're going to buy.
I think they come back from that big losing streak, but I still think that they're not going to climb enough in the Central.
I think they missed the playoffs, so
I agree.
if they're out of it by the deadline, I could see them selling. And that is that. That is the inaugural episode of
Yeah.
Level Flight.
And I mean, just for the record, future episodes are probably going to, be closer to 30 to 45 minutes. We
Yeah.
just wanted to, give this thing a go and try it out for, 2025 and see what you guys think. But yeah, we're going to try and make this a weekly thing. So we hope to be talking, to everyone shortly.
And we're excited.
Super excited. I can't wait.
All right. Thank you for listening. Subscribe, rate, and review. Is that what you're supposed to say on a podcast?
I think so.
Just make sure you share. Make sure you tell everyone to listen to us.
We want to make
Make-
friends. We want to make
Yeah.
friends.
Make sure that you're up to date and keeping up with all of our episodes. And yeah,
Once a week. Yeah.
Yeah,
Look out for
we'll,
us.
Yeah, we'll see you around.
All right. See ya.
This is the Level Flight Podcast.